So NUSI is one of the most popular risk-managed income ETFs on the market. However, one thing I never understood is why is there only one version based around the NASDAQ 100? I love the very high dividend yield in combination with the downside protection in the form of put options. It's just that when you talk to most income investors, they don't focus on the NASDAQ 100. But this all changed about a month ago when Nationwide issued 3 more ETFs. So in addition to the NASDAQ 100, we now have the Dow Jones, the Russell 2000, and the S&P 500. So the plan here is we're going to take a look into these new ETFs and see if they're worth your time. And if you guys have been following the channel, you know that I'm a huge fan of the risk-managed income ETFs by GlobalX. So I also wanted to do a head-to-head comparison between the two companies. And as always, if you guys enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe, helps out the channel a lot, and I greatly appreciate it. But let's get started. Okay, so as mentioned, we now have a total of 4 different risk-managed income ETFs, all focusing on different indexes with the same exact approach. So let's read the description for nspi, which is one of the new ones around the S&P 500. So a collar strategy involves selling or writing call options and buying put options, thus generating income to hedge some downside risk. This is the important part though. The fund's manager utilizes a proprietary, systematic model to manage the fund's option positions. Yet it's not tied to a specific upside or downside threshold. Later on, when we compare this to the GlobalX offering, that's going to be a key distinction right there. The fund strategy seeks to generate a high current income on a monthly basis from any dividends received from the underlying stock and the option premiums retained. And if we take a look at the historical performance, there's not much to look at because the inception date was December 17th of 2021. Now for comparison, here's XRMI, which is the GlobalX S&P 500 Risk Managed Income ETF. Now this also has a limited history with an inception date of August 26th of 2021. So XRMI is based on the S&P 500 and employs an option collar strategy which involves buying 5% out of the money put options and selling at the money covered call options in an amount that corresponds to the value of the portfolio. So right there, you're going to notice that in comparison with the Nationwide offerings, it's way more transparent. The Nationwide offering just says it's based around the S&P 500, it's an option collar strategy, and everything else is proprietary. With GlobalX, we know exactly how much downside protection we have, as well as how we're generating the income, which is pretty important when it comes to risk-managed income ETFs. It also tells us that the put options are purchased on a monthly basis and are held until their 1-month maturity. But the final goal of the ETFs from both of these companies is the same. So the option collar strategy seeks to generate a net credit, meaning that the premium received from the sale of call options will be greater than the premium paid when buying the put options. In fact, I made a little T-chart here of what we know about each company's risk-managed income ETFs. So Nationwide said they have a systematic yet proprietary approach when it comes to their call option strategy. GlobalX, on the other hand, is systematic and fully transparent. We know exactly how this ETF is going to behave now and into the future. The strategy between the two is exactly the same. They're both net credit collar strategies. And the two major components of this collar strategy are put options and call options. With Nationwide, we know that the call options and the put options are somewhere out of the money. Now, having its call options out of the money does give you room for some price appreciation, and we're going to talk more about that in a second. But when it comes to GlobalX, we know that the call options are at the money and the put options are 5% out of the money. Also, I saw that on Nationwide's website, they said that some of the option income may be reinvested into the equities, which might further boost price appreciation. And finally, the expense ratio on the Nationwide offerings are 0.68, and with GlobalX, it's 0.6. Okay, so that's the facts that we know, and here's my takeaway of this. And I apologize, I did flip the colors by accident, but they're still on the same side. So based off of the facts above, the Nationwide offerings, because they have call options that are somewhere out of the money, and they reinvest some of their option premiums back into the equities, they should have more growth over time. And GlobalX, due to having at-the-money call options, will generate the highest amount of income possible. Now, a major flaw of the Nationwide offerings is we do not know exactly where the put option is. It's guesstimated to be around 10% out of the money, but again, we don't know that. And with XRMI and QRMI, we know the put option is 5% out of the money, and it's on a monthly basis. Now, an important concept here is the more downside protection you have, the more it's going to cost and take away from your income. So even though GlobalX will generate more income due to having at-the-money call options, if the downside protection is a lot less and therefore cheaper with Nationwide, the overall dividend yield and income generated by these ETFs might be more similar because of that. But the final major pro definitely goes to nationwide because now they cover 4 major indexes. GlobalX still only has these risk-managed income ETFs on 2 indexes, the nasdaq and the S&P 500. Alright, now let's try and take a look at the historical price performance side by side between these two companies. And to do this, the best comparison I have is between NUSI and Qrmi, which are both based around the nasdaq 100. Now, NUSI is the oldest of the bunch, and Qrmi is about 5 months old, and we can see on the 6-month view the inception date is right here. But we can still gather some insights by looking at them side by side, and the first major one is that the nationwide offerings have a lot more fluctuations and just overall volatility. But if we zoom in to just the past 1 month, which has been extremely volatile, we can see that the GlobalX offering is doing significantly better. In fact, if you remember, the put options with GlobalX are 5% out of the money, and it looks like we might have just hit that. And in comparison to that, NUSI is down almost 8% in the past month. Finally, we're going to take a look at the actual income generated by these ETFs. And to do this, I'm going to take a look at the most recent dividend payments and extrapolate out over the next 12 months. So for Qrmi, the monthly dividend payments have been around 24 cents. So 0.24 times 12 equals $2.88, and it's trading at a current price of $22.17. So divided by 22.17 equals a dividend yield of roughly of 12%. Now this number is probably inaccurate, but I'm using it for comparison purposes. So if we do the same thing for NUSI, the most recent monthly dividend payments have been around 18 cents per share. So let's do the same thing, 0.18 times 12 equals $2.16. The current trading price is $25.60, so divided by 25.6 equals a rough dividend yield of 8.5%. So there you have it, guys. Those are the new risk-managed income ETFs by Nationwide compared against the offerings from GlobalX. I think risk-managed income ETFs are a really fascinating investment choice that we have, and these are 2 of your most popular choices, and it looks like the offerings from GlobalX have less overall volatility as well as less price appreciation in the long term, but due to having at-the-money call options, they should generate slightly higher levels of income. But let us know in the comments down below which company and which ETFs you like the most. If you guys are still watching and enjoyed the video, definitely leave it a like, subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and I greatly appreciate it. But regardless, I'll see you guys in the next one.